I want to read you something. Someone wrote this on a piece of paper and stuck it to a wall in a hotel conference room in Ventura, California. They wrote, "You are an artist. I've been making things most of my life, and I stood in front of that wall and I didn't know what to do with that sentence. This is what Craftcation actually feels like." Craftcation is a creativity and business conference. That's the official description. About 500 people, fiber artists, graphic designers, sewists, content creators, small business owners, makers of every conceivable kind, in one building in Southern California for a few days. But that's not what it is. What it is a room where someone can walk up to a wall and write a message for a stranger and mean it, where 200 people, 40% of everyone at the conference, walked through one room in 2 hours and left pieces of themselves behind. I was there this year as a volunteer. I hosted a wanderings room, and I watched people walk in guarded and walk out softer. That's Craftcation, and that's what it actually is. I heard some version of this over and over from different people in different conversations. Outside, I feel weird, like I don't belong, like I'm too much or not enough or just off. But here, everyone is weird, so nobody is weird. For a few days, I just get to be normal. I want to sit with that for a second, because I think most people watching this know exactly what that feels like. I have a theory that a disproportionate number of people who are drawn to fiber arts, to making, to craft communities, have brains that work a little differently. ADHD, autism, anxiety, depression, the full neurospicy spectrum. And I think that makes sense. There's something about putting your hands on yarn, on fabric, on clay, repetitive, tactile, focused work that regulates a nervous system that spends most of its time being slightly too loud for the world around it. So you end up with a room full of people who have spent their whole lives doing a low-grade performance of normal, masking, editing, making themselves smaller, quieter, or more palatable. And then they walk into Craftcation, the ER doctor who finally gets to let their craft flag fly for 5 days without explaining themselves. The public health researcher carrying the weight of funding cuts, who just needs to sit with yarn and people who get it. Straight-laced professionals next to people with colored hair and tattoos covering both arms, and nobody is more or less of an artist than anyone else in that room. Someone wrote this, "Just be you." And that is a radical thing to say to someone who has spent years being told, explicitly or just by the shape of the world, that the version of themselves they actually are is a little too much. I almost didn't ask anyone for a one-on-one at Craftcation. I wanted to. I had people in mind, but I kept stopping myself. What if they said no? What if I was bothering them? What if I wasn't worth their time? That's the wrong question in action. I was so busy generating reasons it wouldn't work that I almost talked myself out of it entirely. I walked into that conference with my hearing aids in and my service dog Cora at my side and 2 years of knitting behind me. 2 years, which in fiber arts terms means I'm still basically wearing a name tag that says, "Hi, I'm new." And nobody blinked. Nobody made me feel like I needed to justify my presence. That sounds like a small thing. It isn't. I want to talk about this one specifically because it broke something for me. Most creative people I know, including myself, spend a lot of time asking, why would it work? Why would anyone watch? Why would anyone buy? Why would anyone care? Why would I specifically be the one who gets to do this? That question has a built-in assumption. It assumes that making the thing, sharing the thing, calling yourself an artist that these require justification, that you need a reason to try. Someone walked into a room full of strangers and wrote 4 words. Why wouldn't it work? And that's a completely different question. That one assumes you're allowed, that the default is yes, and you'd need a specific reason for no. I've been asking the wrong question for a very long time. This channel exists because I kept asking why it would work. I almost didn't start it for that reason. I almost didn't come back from every hiatus for that reason. And I'm telling you that now because I think some of you are sitting on something, a pattern, a design, a channel, a thing you make, and you're asking the wrong question too. The Wanderings Room got 200 people in 2 hours, which, I want to be honest, was not what I planned for. By the end, it looked like a hurricane had come through. But here's what I keep thinking about. 200 people chose to walk in. 200 people chose to slow down, to write something, to leave it for someone they'd never meet. I brought some of these home, not to keep them, or I don't know, maybe to keep them. I'm still figuring that out. Someone wrote, "Do it, lady, you are worth it." And someone else wrote, "Whatever you are facing, you can do the hard thing." And another, "You are loved. You matter. You are perfect just the way you are." These are permission slips. That's what they are. Written by people who needed to say it as much as someone else needed to hear it. I think that's what Craftcation does. It puts you in a room where the permission is ambient, where it's just in the air. And after a few days of breathing it, something shifts. You start to believe, maybe for the first time in a while, that you are allowed to be what you are. I came home from Craftcation and I sat in this chair and I thought, something is different. Not dramatically. Nothing dramatic happened. I didn't have a breakthrough moment. I didn't cry in a hallway. Nothing went viral. Something just quietly got permission. Some part of me that had been waiting for someone to say it was okay. Some part of me that had been waiting for someone to say it was okay. I finally heard it from 200 strangers on pieces of paper. The last slip I want to read you is this one. Be free to evolve. I've been making this channel for a while now, and I have changed what I make, how I make it, what I'm willing to say on camera. I will keep changing. I don't know exactly what this channel becomes. I know what it's for. It's for people who make things and have brains that don't always cooperate and wonder, sometimes late at night, whether they're really allowed to call themselves. It's for people who make things and have brains that don't always cooperate and wonder, sometimes late at night, whether they're really allowed to call themselves artists. You are. That's not me being nice. That's me passing on what 200 strangers left on a wall in Ventura, California for someone they'd never meet. You are an artist and you are allowed to be here. If this landed for you, if any of these slips said something you needed to hear, I want to know. Leave it in the comments. Tell me which one. I write more about this stuff over on Substack. Creativity, fiber art, making things while having a complicated brain. Link in description, free to subscribe. And something is coming this summer that I think you're going to want to be a part of. I'll tell you more when I can. New videos every Wednesday. I'll see you next week.